come back for the second. India have won the test match. India have won the series. They're going to get back for two. India at home. Lords goes wild.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the 81 All Out podcast. This is Siddhartha Vaidyanathan at Sidvi on Twitter. And I'm here today to talk to two 81 All Out regulars about the first two tests of the India-England series that's currently ongoing. Primarily focused on the second test, but we'll try to cover as much as we can. So I have Ashoka with me. Ashoka, who is at ABVan on Twitter. Hi, Ashoka.
Hello, Sidvi.
And we also have Mahesh, who is at Cornered on Twitter. Hi, Mahesh.
Hey, Sidvi.
Hi. So, quite a finish to the second test at Lord's between India and England. Quite a dramatic final day. India started the final day by leading by 154 runs, and then they won the test by 151 runs, which in effect, if they had declared overnight as a, simplistic way, they might have still won the test. Of course, the things don't work out that way, but that was how remarkable the kind of turnaround it was. I mean, England were clear favourites going into the final day. A draw was pretty much also on the cards, and a draw was on the cards right till the end. I mean, until the last three wickets, India sort of, it was looking like it could be a draw, but the kind of bowling, the kind of fast bowling that was on show, quite, relentless and remarkable, actually. I mean, to see on a fifth day pitch that wasn't really misbehaving. You can't call it one of those pitches that broke and one of those pitches where the ball was, going low or bouncing, rearing up. Occasionally, there were balls that were, pretty hard for the batsman to play. But overall, it was pretty much fine. It was, I would even say, it was like a third day pitch on a, in an Indian venue. But for the kind of fast bowling that we saw, I mean, the Jadeja hardly bowled, and for me, I mean, to just see those four fast bowlers run in over after over and produce the kind of, brilliance and accuracy to beat the batsmen and to get them out was quite amazing. Anyway, so let's talk about it. We have, quite a few points to cover. But before that, let me just mention that you can support our show by going to Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/81allout. Quite a few of you have been generous over the last, few months by putting in either a one-time contribution or, putting a monthly fee that you can pay every month. And it's been really heartening to see that people are willing to pay a bit for content, which is always a big challenge of these times. And thank you for that. And thank you for your continued support. We had a COVID relief sort of fundraising that we did, and we got a good response there as well. And anything that you contribute will help keep the show going. I mean, this is a podcast that is completely done on a voluntary basis here, and all of us have independent jobs that we do. So this is something we're doing in our free time. Anyway, so Ashoka, the greatest Indian win ever, right? I mean, there's no doubt.
Of course. Of the last week, I mean, but we don't know what happens next week, but for this week, we can say this is the greatest Indian win. And I mean, over the two tests, this was like, usually it is all testosterone based and then just thumping. This series is more tears and emotional Indian serial based so far. So
Saas Bahu.
Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi kind of serial is running here. And I mean, the main protagonists seem to be Kohli, Pujara, Rahane, and for some reason, without even having played a test, Ashwin. So everyone is crying about something and somebody. So very, very emotional series. We have all become very emotional a lot, and we have stopped talking about cricket, which is very happy because, I mean, the 100 is going on and then the IPL is going to come. So I think we are getting ourselves primed for that. And Test cricket is not being spoken about. It's now becoming a Rahul Dravid of its own. It is the unsung format of the sports. by people constantly talking about everything other than Test cricket, what happened in those 2 days. So very, very happy about how things are progressing.
Actually, cricket is the Rahul Dravid of Test cricket. Like cricket part of it is the unsung part of it.
Yeah, except batting, bowling, fielding, we will talk about everything else. We'll talk about grit, intensity, buoyancy, valency, everything we'll talk about.
Okay, now that you've brought it up, we might as well get it out of the way soon. I mean, we don't want to be talking too much about it because we'll be hypocritical in that sense itself, because obviously we are more interested in the cricket. But, my fundamental issue here is that, all this seems to be like the creation of TV cameras partly as well. I mean, because if what you watch on TV is nowhere close to what you will get when you're watching live on the ground. I mean, you go sit on the ground, it's not like you're going to be observing what Virat Kohli is doing every second. You have 100 other things to watch, and your focus is so diffuse that you're not good. But the kind of story that TV is giving you, I mean, they are in the narrative building business, they are in the marketing business. They are trying to tell you a certain version of the story. And for people like seasoned observers of the game to fall for that story is quite silly. I mean, I've done it myself before. I mean, when I was writing full-time on cricket, I'm sure I've written about player behavior and, the kind of exchanges that happen and sledges and all that. I mean, it's a very easy target. It's a very easy trap to fall into. And it's low-hanging fruit. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, if you write about player behavior, then you're likely to get like 10,000 more people talking about the piece rather than writing about Mohammad Siraj's bowling, right? Like the actual bowling. So I feel like we have seen far worse before. That doesn't mean that, I'm not trying to put a bar here about the player behavior saying which is bad, which is worse. But I feel like at the end of the day, as long as like there's nothing that the umpires weren't able to like manage, like if things didn't go out of hand, then a lot of it is theater. And okay, this player did this, that player said that, this player did this. But hey, I mean, what your version is exaggerated anyway. So that's my take on it.
No, it's completely TV's creation, right? At the end of the day, like in fact, the most amusing part of the coverage was, Sky is probably the gold standards when it comes to TV coverage, right? I mean, probably even better than the peak sort of Channel 9 days. And one of their really good segments is the third man segment that they do, where a player or a commentator is analyzing a particular piece of action or a particular passage of play and bringing out insights, nuanced insights on them. Andrew Strauss won when he was a third man, absolutely winged it. He actually took out all the shots of Kohli celebrating and showing intensity and stuff like that. That became a third man package. That's how bad it's become. Like, he's whatever it is, Kohlism, you call it whatever you want. That's just the way he behaves. He's not going to change his behavior. He's not behaving because there's a camera in front of him. He's just being himself. Now, and because he's such a big box office and because he's the captain of the team, the camera is always focusing on him. I mean, if you probably put the camera always on Siraj, he's probably going to do far more dramatic things. Like throughout, like even if he's standing in third man, even if he's bringing drinks. I mean, we have seen like someone like Andre Nell, for instance, was as theatrical as it gets, or Srishant for that matter. Like, or even Dravid, for instance, which has been quite, he's always positioned as the opposite guy, right? I mean, we have seen him throw a cap around after dropping a catch. Like throw a cap down like this. Now, at that time, to celebrate it as him showing intent, that's how much it meant to him, so to say. Now, these are all like things that people read and write and whatever. See, I'm okay with these readings as an extra layer, but you've just seen a phenomenal test, some extraordinary skills on display. You can talk about it, you talk about it for 2-3 days, you'll exhaust, then you'll have pages to fill, you'll have, people to, you want people to come and visit your page or whatever, then you can write about all these things. But first focus on cricket, no?
At least count your blessings, man. I mean, you're at least seeing a pure Sky telecast. I am seeing Sky interlaced with Sanjay Manjrekar and whatnot. So I was privileged. I'm using that word here very advisedly to hear Sanjay Manjrekar say that KL Rahul is shielding Kohli in an over before lunch where he was not giving strike to Kohli. And if you see what's actually happening there are balls wide outside the off stump and he's leaving them because why the hell will you want to touch it before lunch, man? So that is regular mundane test cricket that's happening there. But According to Mr. Manjrekar, it's a shrewd ploy by Mr. Rahul to deny Kohli the strike and take the pressure away from him. And therefore, this is a team effort. And this is Kohli's India. So he has not only built a narrative, he has built a Harry Potter level 7-book novel in that 5 minute, and he has sold that bullshit to us. And I mean, that is the level at which it is going right now.
No, and I clearly remember, like in the early days, I mean, this the whole huddle in cricket. I mean, it's like something that came in, as far as I remember, in like the early 2000s. I remember the 2003 World Cup when India used to do the huddle. And then before that, there were probably a couple of teams that I remember Michael Holding once commentating, and he said, if there was no TV, there would be no huddle. I mean, these guys are coming from the dressing room and later they're standing in a huddle. I mean, what is this absurdity, right? I mean, this is just a performance. Why can't you, whatever you're saying here, just say it in the dressing room? Like, what is the big deal? But the fact is that, I mean, it's always important to remember, and it's easy to forget it, but that the story on TV is not the story of the match. Like if you were at a game, covering a game, it is highly unlikely that you would be even bothered to write about, how this player celebrated or how that player thing, because there is so much more to write. I mean, that the game is so rich that you would not even feel like giving this too much importance. And, as somebody who watched the Karnataka team of the mid and late 90s, I mean, those guys had their own characters who used to like just go after the opposition. I mean, we've had Vijay Bharadwaj and Hemang Badani on our podcast to talk about the Karnataka-Tamil Nadu rivalry. And there they touch upon how David Johnson and Dodda Ganesh, and they just like completely used to go after. I mean, David Johnson nearly went into the Tamil Nadu dressing room after a match, and then they were like they came to blows. And the kind of behavior, I mean, there were occasions where players nearly came to blows on the field. Obviously, all of that was like hardly a big deal at the end of it, because most of those matches weren't televised. And even, the players at the end of the day realized that, okay, I mean, this happened, that happened. And if you hear Hemang talk about it now, he's like, okay, I mean, we did our bit, you guys did your bit, but we had a great rivalry. I think over time, all this also smoothens out. And then people realize that at the end of the day, the bottom line being that if you're not good as a cricketer, whatever you say or shout or do on the field doesn't really matter. I mean, many players will tell you this. I mean, at a bad bowler can scream how much ever he wants, but at the end, he's just going to get hit for 4s and 6s all over the place, and then it's not going to matter. So this is, India won ultimately not because of, I mean, I'm talking about the flip side as well, because people are starting to credit this kind of behavior for the victory, which is pretty ridiculous, because this is a bloody good team. And they have won by saying stuff, and they've also won by not saying stuff. And they will win anyway. I mean, if you have 4 good fast bowlers, you're likely to win most tests in most conditions. And of course, they have an all-time great spinner who is not even playing. So that is the level of depth that you're talking about. So yeah, all this is secondary. Anyway, now having said all this, let's talk about the bowling, because 55 overs, a team is trying to save a test. I mean, despite all you say, I mean, England's batting is weak, no doubt. I mean, this is basically Joe Root and a set of others who are struggling to get into form and are struggling to get in terms with this Indian bowling lineup. Even a player like Johnny Bairstow, who has a wonderful test who's had some great test years, is not necessarily, I mean, you can't say that he's in the any kind of form that he would like to be. So it's quite a feeble batting lineup apart from Root. I mean, with Stokes not there and, a few other players trying to really find their place in the team. But still, I mean, 55 overs, to get a bowler side out in 55 overs is still a big deal. And I mean, for me, the start was fantastic. I mean, as a bowling team, that's the dream start to have, to get both the openers out for ducks, right? I mean, and that ball to Sibley, that Mohammad Shami bowled. I mean, if I've been seeing replays of that ball actually over and over. I've even paused it and seen it. It's like just the exact kind of ball that any coach would just dream of. I mean, it's like you call it the honest seam, right? I mean, the upright seam, and every coach will say, if you release the ball like that, and there's a view basically the Sibley view of the replay that you can see. It's just, you just fall in love with the ball. I mean, if I were the batsman there, I would not even probably play it. It's like, it's such a good ball. It's like, oh man, how do you bowl that and pitch it there? And Sibley just walked. He didn't even wait for the umpire. I mean, it was pretty faint edge, but I was surprised. He just walked because he probably guessed that anyway, if he reviews it, it's going to be out. So that ball, and then that Bumrah ball to the Bumrah ball to Burns was a fantastic ball as well. But the first ball that Bumrah bowled in that match, in that innings, I mean, first of all, to face, you're out there as an opener, you're trying to like get your eye in, you're trying to get your movements in, you're ideally looking for a ball to leave, right? And then you have this ball that's not only pinpoint accurate, but that's almost going to hit your face. And Burns is like just desperately trying to get the ball out of the way. So, I mean, that was a perfect start. And then on top of that, you have Bumrah and Shami to face. And on top of that, you have like Ishant to come and Siraj to come. I mean, as a batting team, you have nowhere to hide. And it was, I mean, of course, there were a few balls that were wide and there's some leg side bowling and all that. But overall, I felt the relentlessness was just great cricket to watch.
Yeah, and you can only explain it in the first innings as well. I mean, England did make 390, nearly 400. But that's explained by the fact that India were attacking, I mean, when there was no help anywhere and it was the most sunniest possible couple of days. And the errors were all errors of aggression or errors of trying to get a wicket. And it was not like you were trying to bowl 3 feet outside half stump and trying to contain a batsman. Nobody was doing that. I mean, especially Siraj. Even in the first test, when England just made 183, he was going for 4 runs and over because he was trying to attack the stumps, and it's just that Root was in good form and he was able to get Siraj away for a few boundaries. But the threat of a wicket or the search for a wicket was always there. And that's why this fourth innings, the fourth bowling innings of this test match series, the fourth time the India bowled in this test match series, is not an aberration. This is how they always bowled in the first 3 attempts as well. And the pressure of the scorecard finally, I mean, England were pretty knackered by the time, Shami and Bumrah had done their batting. I mean, there was very little juice left in the tank and they were trying to survive 60 overs. With this bowling attack, surviving 50, 60 overs is very, very tough. You are going to lose wickets, and as you lose wickets, you are going to feel the pressure even more. So absolutely on point with the bowling, I would say. And, I mean, I hate to bring up cricketing view of all the people, but he had a good tweet where he said, this is not a 90 for 7 pitch when England were 90 for 7. This is not a 90 for 7 pitch. This is 90 for 7 bowling, which is a correct way, which is the correct exact way of putting this.
I was thinking like India started the day like 154 ahead, right? So I was thinking that, okay, I mean, given the batting that the tail had, that, okay, if they even make like 20, 30 runs, okay, say Pant gets a few fours and off, then if England are left with a target of 180, 190, then I thought like India will have the best chance because England will actually then probably go for the runs. And then, the chance of getting your wickets are much higher. And with the India bowling aggressively anyway throughout, I thought that would be India's best chance to win. But it so turned out that, I mean, they batted, the Shami and Bumrah put up that partnership. They batted, they got the big lead. They pretty much batted England out of the match. There was no way England was going to even think of chasing that target after that. So I thought that might actually work counterproductive to India. But, the bowlers were good enough to even get through the lineup in 55 overs. I mean, it didn't matter if the batsmen were going for the runs or not. They still stuck to it and they got the wickets.
I mean, it's quite extraordinary that, the pitch argument is very, very valid. It was not a 120 all-out pitch at all. To extract so much out of that wicket, I mean, typically, the entire sort of premise of fourth innings is that, people argue fourth innings is harder to bat and so on. But in this test, if you look at it, it's the complete opposite. It's the first innings which was the hardest to bat. And the fourth innings, which is probably one of the easier ones. Perhaps the third innings was the easiest. But fourth innings was not difficult at all. The other thing, I mean, while England, you can argue they're Joe Root plus a bunch of batsmen. But, it's very hard to say that they were reckless or they they had a fundamental flaw in their technique, and particularly in this innings. It is just a bunch of extremely talented, skillful bowlers all coming together and things falling in place on that day. And even though they got all out for 51 odd overs, there were phases in which England looked absolutely comfortable, right? Like Joe Root played 60 balls. Butler played nearly 100 balls. Moeen Ali was playing pretty well. They were surviving. They were able to survive reasonably well because there was nothing in the wicket.
Ollie Robinson also played quite a few balls. Yeah.
Even after initial Shami spell, for instance, they even Hasib Hamid after the initial nervousness survived quite a bit. So again, they had to extract so much out of themselves. Ishant tried so many things. He was able to get that shape. Then Kohli said, let's just move to straightest lines. In fact, you can see them arguing that he doesn't want so many fielders on the leg side. And Kohli kind of, says, this is what you have, and then he bowls at length. The other thing that you notice with the way Kohli has handled Siraj in this series is that he's just completely let him be. For instance, even when they were trying the straightest line that they bowled in Australia, for instance, for a few overs, other bowlers were trying, but as far as Siraj was concerned, in the first test and in the second test, he was just completely allowed to be himself. And he's such a naturally attacking bowler. And he's got this, if you, even in terms of the way, forget the pace. I think Bumrah bowls serious pace. Shami bowls good pace. It's not like Siraj is in a different league. But the rhythm in his run-up, it's like a complete all-out effort every ball. And even when he was going at 4 and over, there was no restriction. Typically bowlers tend to pull back. They want a little bit of confidence. Siraj, one, is a naturally attacking bowler, and he was absolutely allowed to be in his elements, and that showed in the results. It's very obvious that he was able to get so many wickets because he was allowed to attack throughout. But the real absolute gold is Jasprit Bumrah, right? The kind of control he has, he can attack relentlessly without leaking runs. Siraj, for instance, has to bowl fuller to be able to attack. But Bumrah is probably the only bowler in this lineup, in fact, one of the rarest in the world, who has so much control that he can actually attack without leaking runs. And then try other variants as well. I will certainly talk about the Robinson one, because when that dismissal came about, they were surviving quite comfortably. In fact, he even tried the slower balls. If you remember, the first 2 slower balls that he bowled was from the over the wicket. And they were the fuller sort of slower balls that he bowled to, let's say, Sean Marsh, for instance. And he bowled his trademark Yorkers, he bowled his bounces. Then he changed the angle. To one, have the conception that, okay, I bowled the fuller off-cutter, that didn't work. And the guy's on the back foot, right? He knows, given the field setting, given the angle, the guy's clearly on the back foot, but he's also mentally prepared to play the Yorker. So he's only thinking about 2 balls. There's a short ball, there's a Yorker. Anything else, the pitch is not so devious that he can't play it, right? Even if he's got to see the ball and react later, there's enough time for him to react, and there's not much movement in the pitch. To think through all this, conceptually, he's saying, okay, I'm going to go from down the wicket to have the audacity of thinking to bowl the slow ball, which is off cutter, slightly short of length, and to fucking execute it so precisely. And even if you look at it, see, the curious thing here is the umpire is an ex-cricketer, right? Very naturally, his cricketing instincts tell him that this bowler is bowling from down the wicket, from this angle, and he's bowling a slower ball. It ought to have pitched outside the extent. So when he says no, it comes from both what he saw, the evidence of what he saw, plus his cricketing instinct, which says that could not have possibly pitched on the leg stump. But the way Bumrah appealed, it was absolutely clear to him. In fact, Kohli asked him, right, did it pitch in line? Yeah. He says yes. In fact, if you see Rishabh Pant, he's not sure. So Bumrah was always clear that this is what he wanted to do, and this is precisely what he did. And even after it happened, he knew he had his case completely sealed. That is just a bowler at the absolute peak of his powers. We are privileged to even have a Bumrah-like bowler in India. It's if you have to think of it, perhaps when Kapil came along, the difference between pre-Kapil to that sort of change must have been a sea change, right? It's very difficult for us to relate to because we were born after Kapil, so we knew such a bowler existed. But perhaps before that, that would have been a giant leap for Indian cricket, right? To have a serious fast bowler who's going to play such a long career and so on. But outside of that, since then it's been incremental sort of, even if you argue Srinath was a faster bowler, more threatening bowler than Kapil, or Zahir was a more threatening bowler and so on, but they were all incremental sort of change. But with Bumrah, I think it's probably the next big leap. Here's this absolute world-class bowler. And the world-class fast bowler makes a massive difference to the winning chances of a team, right? I mean, you can have 5 Kohlis in the team, and they're not going to make nearly anywhere close to the same impact as a Bumrah can.
Yeah, I mean, I think, for the first time in our, memory, and which I guess is everyone's memory, because before Kapil, there was hardly anyone. And we saw, I saw quite a bit of Kapil's career. And thanks to TV and thanks to high definition, and also, the fact that you're watching cricket so differently, you're actually able to get this cerebral view of fast bowling, rather than the stereotypical fast bowler running in and going wang. That, which is, of course, big nonsense, because fast bowlers just don't run in and go. I mean, they are very, the great fast bowlers are extremely thoughtful, and they're planned, and they're not, it's not like Malcolm Marshall. Malcolm Marshall probably knew more about fast bowling than any fast bowler ever. I mean, people who he has coached will tell you that. That's because he was so thoughtful with every ball he bowled. I mean, to hear Curtly Ambrose talk about Malcolm Marshall, you're like, here's a great fast bowler in Curtly Ambrose, but who's saying that Marshall knew so much more about fast bowling than him. But unfortunately, because of the television quality of Marshall, the little bit of Marshall that I saw, I could never actually observe the craft so closely. But with this crop, whether it's Cummins or Bumrah or, the South African bowlers, Rabada, Nortje, West Indian bowlers, you can actually, if you watch every ball closely, you can actually sort of join the dots, right? And this Bumrah ball to Robinson was like the perfect joining the dots. I even tweeted at some point, because I don't know, instinctively I felt that the slower ball would come at some point, because the partnership was going. And I said, a string of bouncers and a Sean Marsh type slower ball would be ideal. It's just something that I randomly said, but I also felt it that he may try it. But to go, their point is perfect, right? To go from over the wicket to round the wicket is one thing. You change the angle. But then to change the angle, and then you're basically controlling two things. One, you're controlling where the ball pitches, because if it's outside leg, it's gone. There's no wicket there for LB. You're pitching it on the stumps. You're not changing your action, and you're bowling a slower ball, you're spinning the ball instead of actually propelling it. And you're pitching it right on spot. Anybody who has bowled a cricket ball will know the absolute difficulty in doing just that. But not only did he do just that, he also led it up with that planning. So this is the peak of pace bowling here. And it's deception, it's pace. It's like a combination of being a spinner and a fast bowler. You're also thinking like a spinner, because you're deceiving them with the pace and the flight. You're also thinking in terms of purely as a fast bowler by setting them up and softening them up. It's just, anybody who is watching India's attack now or world cricket now should know that, this is pretty much the peak of what you are seeing. And just to observe it, you just record it if you can, and just watch it as many times as you can, because this is very rare. This is rare territory.
Yeah, and I didn't want to harp on our first point of hyperbole and nonsense, but these events thankfully happen. Robinson didn't get an inside edge to it, and that is the fortune, because if he had gotten an inside edge, right, this would have still been a genius level bowling, because it did everything that he wanted it to. If it had just grazed the bat even by slightest bit, it would not have diminished Bumrah. And that's the same with the Shami dismissal of Sibley as well. There were so many such balls over the course of these 4 tests.
In fact, there was a ball that Shami bowled to Moeen Ali, which was also a perfect setup. The ball, basically, Moeen Ali gets an inside edge and it goes to fine leg. It goes, misses the stumps and goes to fine leg. So that could have easily been a bowled as well. Inside edge played on could have easily happened, or it swings more, it could have been bowled. That would have been a perfect delivery. So, everything, you can see the sort of process that these bowlers are using, and it's remarkable. Anybody who has bowled at any level, forget even club level, even if you have bowled in the streets, you know that this is extremely hard. To bowl 6 consecutive balls on the spot is a challenge itself. for amateurs. And look at these guys. They are like going in the sort of pinpoint millimeter level of precision.
Yeah, and they're adjusting the pinpoint millimeter level adjustments that they're doing on the go. Like the second ball or third ball is right on the spot where the first ball has missed it. So they adjust it on the go. I mean, and as the innings go, it becomes harder for you to face them because now they have gotten that length and they refuse to let go of that length, and that becomes a problem. Only some guy, I mean, Root has somehow found some magical form and he's walking on water. But I mean, it is really, really hard. And even for him, it is really hard because there were so many play and misses. There were so many fall shots where he was not in control. And that is the point. I mean, we have gotten a bowling attack, which will, I mean, left to itself and left to probability, will win you 7 to 8 out of every 10 test matches. Right? And now conditions don't matter anymore because these guys know how to change their lengths and how to bowl. They have got the pace. I mean, if you have good slip fielders, better slip fielders, I would say you would run down teams even with a lower score. Right? And
yeah, I mean, and if you see these wickets, as we discussed, you just go through every single wicket. I mean, the Sibley ball would get almost every batsman out today. I mean, that's the kind of beauty that it was. I mean, it's just perfect seam bowling. It's like you pitch it, it's pace, it's seam, it's pitches. You can actually see the rotation of the seam. I mean, this is just like, I don't know. I mean, it's like Mohammad Shami, when he gets that seam going, he's just like all-time beautiful, right? I mean, this is like fast bowling at its essence and at its brilliance. I mean, I don't know how he does it. I mean, that seam position is something, I don't get it. And then every single batsman you see, I mean, okay, Hamid is the one wicket you can say, okay, he was late on it. And a better batsman would have probably got in time with that ball that came in. But still, it was a very good in-dipper that came in. But every other batsman, I mean, Butler, Robinson, go right down. I mean, even that ball to Anderson, how many batsmen are going to be able to play that? I mean, how many top order batsmen are going to be able to get that away? That hit, that grazed the stumps, that last wicket. And it grazed the stumps and it went to Rohit Sharma at slip, who actually took the catch and he's celebrating with it. I mean, that is a nice moment at the end. But to bowl a ball that can actually graze the stumps, not many batsmen are going to be able to play that.
No, the thing with Shami is like he's taken all this, he's bowled like this, and he's also scoring above Pujara and Kohli at this moment. I mean, he has more runs than both of them. So that is another. I mean, we are unearthing all-rounders like nobody's business.
I mean, by the way, Lord Shardul's spot, Shami is taking up. Just remember.
No, I think Shardul will open. We are going to drop Rohit Sharma.
So Shami, talking of Shami, so I don't think even Gary Sobers would have got this compliment from Michael Holding. So Michael Holding was on commentary, and I mean he really likes Shami, and when they were showing the pitch map of Shami, he's like, this guy's always there. He's always consistent. He's always hitting the seam, and he's got such great accuracy. There's no surprise about this. He's like, no, he actually reached out for McGrath and Ambrose. Like he actually used those words to talk about Shami when he was bowling. And it's not like he took a 5-wicket haul or a 6-wicket haul. In fact, he was going through the classic Shami spell where he was bowling beautifully but not getting a wicket. And Holding said this, and he said it as a matter of course, not even like, it's not a package where he's trying to praise Shami. It's a normal ball-by-ball commentary, and in a very natural course of commentary, he mentioned this. And while he was batting again, Holding was in commentary, and there's that sort of whip over mid-wicket that he plays like almost like Viv Richards, right? And then he says, that is very Vivian-like. I'm like, how many people in the world would have got a compliment from Holding comparing him to Ambrose and Viv, like ever? I don't think even Gary Sobers would have been mentioned in that league.
Yeah, so the thing with Shami, right? I think it was Michael Atherton who mentioned this on the last tour in 2018. He said that, a bowler like, many fast bowlers around the world, right? I mean, they have these natural attributes that is really making them like what they are, as well as, of course, skill and everything else. But, what he was trying to say is you cannot replicate a Bumrah that easily in a coaching setup. Bumrah is somebody who is original. Like he comes around once in a while and then you just are thankful to it. You sort of put him in cotton wool and you just make sure that he's not injured. Ishant, on the other hand, is like he has his height. I mean, if you have that height as a fast bowler, that's a natural advantage. I mean, Curtly Ambrose, right? That was like for him to come from that height, and all these bowlers, Garner, all of them, to bowl from, you're bowling from nearly 8.5 feet or 9 feet. And that's huge. But he said Shami is the bowler that every coach will love, because this is the kind of bowler you can develop. He does not come with any great natural, height advantage or any great advantage. It is not like he is like, there is nothing about him that suggests that, okay, he has this, he is this great bowler. But then with his rhythm, with his wrist, with the way he runs it, and also, it's not like Shoaib Akhtar or somebody who is like, picking up with momentum through the run. A guy like Shoaib Akhtar used to have that great run where he used to come and then he used to have this utmost momentum. Shami is basically running in and bowling. He's, it's like run, rhythm, bowl. And he was saying that is the bowler that every coach will want to develop. And if you can get that level of wrist positioning and seam movement and control, it's a dream. I mean, you have become a dream bowler from pretty much being like a guy who's running in and bowling the ball. And I thought that was a brilliant way to put it, because Shami is just so beautiful to watch. I mean, when he's running. And I really wish, and if you're in England, please take this chance and go and watch any of these tests, because when you watch fast bowling at a ground, it is like the most brilliant thing, because you can actually see the rhythm of a bowler when he's running in. For a spinner or for a batsman, what you're watching is only pretty much the few seconds. But with a bowler bowling a long spell of 6 or 7 overs, you can actually see him running in ball after ball, and you can feel the rhythmic movement with him. And please go watch this fast bowling. Even Anderson for that matter. But, this four Indian fast bowlers, it's a joy to watch.
So just one caveat on what Ashoka mentioned. As good as these four fast bowlers are, I know, given our standard of expectations, one bad match Bumrah has, and everybody's like, oh, he can't play the big match. And so
one bad ball.
One bad ball, yeah. It's quite possible that, for instance, the next match is at Leeds. It's quite possible that England bowlers, even like lesser bowlers overall, could get a lot more out of the wicket. We discussed this even at the beginning of, I think in the preview, if I'm not wrong, about how, there are some conditions where some bowlers are better exploited, can exploit it better and so on. We'll address the Ashwin point later, but one of the reasons why we actually, Kohli dropped Ashwin and went in favor of 4 bowlers is also that, right? It's the learning from World Test Championship final. But that is also because New Zealand is blessed with it. Like if they had an Ashwin, there was no way they were going to play 4 fast bowlers. They would have played 3 fast bowlers and Ashwin. And even those 3 fast bowlers were really, really good enough to exploit those conditions. But the same bowlers were not equally good in, let's say, for instance, Australia, for instance. So, yeah, that's probably one caveat. As good as these guys are, they're going to have wickets in which they will be good, but opposition will be better.
Yeah. We've spoken quite a bit about the bowling. So let's move to the batting. We spoke about England. And as we said, this final innings collapse cannot be attributed to poor batting by England. Every ball would have got many top order batsmen out. But through the series, it's been pretty apparent that this has been Joe Root and a combination of good to not so good, good to medium good batsmen. There've been a few good innings here and there around. Joe Root has been like way, way, way better than the rest. But with Stokes gone, I don't even see too many options. There's Dan Lawrence. Of course, he has a good thing, but it seems England seem in a position of being pretty handicapped without some of their players, right?
Joe Denley, my man.
Joe Denley, of course.
Yes, they're now talking about bringing back David Malan, the world's greatest T20 cricketer, back into test scene. And
the problem with this whole, especially after the first test, all the English journalists said, oh, the system needs to be revamped and so on.
It's the stinking rotten system.
Yeah. But what the selectors have done well is that they've been consistent. See, this is the reality. The reality is that probably Bairstow is your second best test batsman, and he's averaging 35 over such a long stretch of matches. And it's got a couple of things. One, the conditions that they play in, and 2, this era is an era of better pitches for bowlers and also much better quality of bowlers. So, Karthikeya has been going on and on about it, about comparing, the scoring averages, both batting and bowling across eras, and it's quite obvious that this where the median average has gone down dramatically in the last, let's say, 7 years compared to the previous 15 years. And that's a combination of both the pitchers and the bowlers. So you've got to factor that in when you're talking about this English batting lineup. The other thing is also, some countries simply do not have the depth. Like Australia, for instance, could afford to not pick quite a lot of the domestic legends. I mean, Darren Lehman made his debut so late. Hussey made his debut so late.
Kevin Martin got thrown out for so long.
Brad Hodge.
Brad Hodge never really had a proper career despite being a domestic legend.
Stuart Law.
But today, for instance, they're struggling to, like Matthew Wade is playing as a batsman. That speaks for the depth of the thing. I mean, that's probably due to a variety of reasons. So it is quite possible that these are the best players that they have, best batsmen that they have. And also we should factor in the fact that this is a much harder era to bat.
Yeah, that's a fact, which brings us to Joe Root. I mean, number one, Joe Root has always been a fantastic batsman, no doubt about it. But this particular series, he has been at a different level altogether. I mean, he has the kind of innings that he's playing. It's basically, I mean, this is probably the ultimate compliment I can give everyone. He's even probably flirting with Kane Williamson level of batting, sort of the pristine batting that he's coming up with. Yeah. And you must remember, he's playing against an awesome bowling attack. And for him to be not only surviving against his bowling attack, but scoring big runs against them, 100 after 100, is a huge deal. I mean, I don't remember too many batsmen in the last 3 years. I mean, I'm saying 3 years because Bumrah made his debut in 2018. I don't remember too many batsmen being so assured and so fluent against this Indian attack as Joe Root has. I mean, Kane Williamson has in phases. Steve Smith hasn't played that much against this particular attack. He missed that series, and this Ashwin got him out a few times here. So Steve Smith hasn't had a big time as well. But Joe Root is just remarkable. I mean, the first test, that second innings 100 was brilliant. Even in the second innings, in the final day of the Lord's Test, to come in at that position and then to so fluently play your shots and to be so calm in that situation was brilliant. I mean, he got a wonderful ball and got caught, but I think it was he's batting at a different level now.
Yeah, ironically, if I were to rate, I would rate the 180 as the last best. The second innings 100 that you said, I saw quite a bit of it. It was like he never looked troubled, man. I mean, he played a lot of played and missed a lot of foul shots, but that was true of all the players who played this series. So, but when he caught on length very, very quickly, and he was able to place the ball. I mean, some cover drives were like gorgeous. Not some. I mean, whenever he played a cover drive, it was like great. And it's also a function of the bowling, right? Like they were very aggressive towards him, and they were very little bit straight as well. But to put all of those away, I mean, he was pinging all of those away, and I mean that shows that the guy is in like great form. 180 might be, okay, fine. 180, he made a 180, but the second innings 100, his first innings 64 as well. That was like a superb innings.
Fantastic.
And this 33 as well. I mean, he got a very, very good ball, or else he was going for another 50, 60 runs here, and England were going to draw this match. But yeah, I mean, he's in great form. Sad that could not be.
If you add the Chennai 100 that he had, in India, which was also a fantastic one. I mean,
and 200 in Sri Lanka.
Like he scored a double 100 in New Zealand. He scored a double 100 in Sri Lanka the last time he was there. He scored a double 100 in India the last time he was there. He nearly scored a double 100 now in England against.
He had a good series in West Indies as well when they went there.
Yeah. So he's been in purple patch. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And about the first test Trent Bridge 100, like one, he was playing at home and he didn't have a great series against New Zealand, for instance. So it's not like he came into this test in stellar form. Like he didn't have a great series against New Zealand. He didn't have a great ending after that Chennai double 100. He didn't have a great series in India itself. I mean, naturally, because they were also some sort of outlier test for most batsmen. So it's not like he was continuing his purple patch when he came in there. And then England was down by a bit, like had a deficit of 100 runs or whatever. In the second innings, and they lost 2 early wickets. In fact, Atherton was on commentary and he mentioned this, we've had such great captain's knocks in the past, But typically, those kind of captain's knocks start with absorbing a lot of pressure. They take their time to solidify before launching a counter-attack. But this was like pristine batting, right? He just came in and started counter-attacking straight away. Like Ashoka mentioned, part of the reason is also because India was attacking so much. So there were enough balls for him to hit for boundaries. But even that to sustain throughout was a phenomenal innings. I think it was, in fact, that saved the test for them, right? Had he not played that 100, England would have lost the first test within 4 days without the last day being rained off. So that saved. It's one of his best innings, if not his best 100.
All right. So let's see what holds in the next 3 tests. I mean, hopefully he does score, because otherwise this is going to turn out pretty one-sided with the way we're seeing England bat. You never know. I mean, Denley may come in, Malan may come in. There could be somebody may pick up from form. But let's just hope that he continues with this. Okay, so the India batting, the greatest opening partnership since when? Since Mayank and Rohit, I guess, had a good home series. But see, the starts these guys are giving us, KL opening. I mean, in the preview, we said KL is not likely to open, because I think that was what the team had mentioned, that he may bat only in the middle order. But he did open. And Ashoka, you can talk about KL, because we know that the other
What else is there to talk about? I mean, in KL, he came, he scored 80 in the first test, and I think 100 here. And
that's it.
He was stellar. I mean, so that is the one thing. I mean, it's that guy was not even in the radar, right? Like Shubman would have opened, and then they had Mayank in the practice game.
I mean, look at the number of guys they've opened with, right? I mean, you have Shaw, you have Mayank, you have Gill, you have Rohit, KL. I mean, over the last few years, I mean, it's almost like there is like opening. There's a queue waiting over there to open.
Yeah. If quarantine conditions were not there, it was very likely Prithvi Shaw would have been back in time and he would have opened ahead of Rahul.
Correct.
Yeah,
correct.
Exactly. And Rahul, Rahul opened in England last time in 2018. It's almost become like a full cycle. He opened, then they went to Australia, where he opened a bit with Vijay. And then he was gone, because after that,
he went to West Indies. Again, he played poorly there. And he was dropped after the West Indies tour.
And then Mayank came in for the Melbourne test last time in 2018, and he did a good job. He kept his spot. Then Shubman came in and kept his spot a bit recently. But then KL is back. And he's actually made it so good now.
Yeah. And I mean, as much as we talk about route, I mean, KL Rahul's shots were also like really, really good. His footwork, and especially when he plays it on the offside, is tremendous. And that's the point, right? Like, people say that KL Rahul is back. I think that was always him. I mean, he always had that, the game for this kind of an innings. Just that he lost his form a little bit on the way, and then he had a bunch of poor scores. Remember, that guy used to have like 12 or 10 50s on the trot. He was shaping up to be a pretty good test batsman, opener or otherwise. Good for the guy that he managed to score 130. Now he will keep his place for the next 3 tests, I think.
I mean, the fact is that he was getting the big scores at just the right moment to keep his spot. I mean, I remember we have spoken about this before. It was like we used to, in the previews and reviews, we used to say, I mean, I think KL is running out of time, and then the next innings he will get a big one. Like he did it. The Oval he got, Sydney he got 100.
I mean, Oval also, right?
I thought you were talking about Pujara, but okay, fine. Anyways,
no, Rahane actually, but yeah.
Rahane, that's more Rahane.
No, the problem with Rahul was, I think, he had a phenomenal start. When he came into the team, he was a proper Ranji legend, right? He had a phenomenal run in Ranji Trophy, and he played like a proper test batsman. Even when he got out, like for instance, if you remember his debut, he gets out playing the pull shot in his first innings, like a really ambitious pull shot. And even in the next test, when he gets 100, again, he plays the same pull shot and gets out after holding back on the pull shot for a while. And he was on a cruise mode, right? He had 3 or 4 hundreds in pretty quick time. He scored a 199 against England at Chennai as well. So he was in really, really good form.
That was a good innings.
Yeah, but somewhere between like that sort of 2017 or 18, where I don't know, I don't follow IPL. Perhaps Ashoka, you can confirm. He had some sort of a breakthrough IPL season, and
2-3 seasons together.
He did mention that, for instance, after getting dropped or before going for the West Indies series, he gave an interview saying, I lost my rhythm for Test cricket. Like even like for instance, one of the things that I really remember very well is is the Bangalore test against Australia, where he got the man of the match, actually. He scores a 90. It was a very chancy innings, he took disproportionate risks and it kind of came through and it was okay. And even the last Australia series, in fact, his worst innings was the one where he made the highest score. He scored a 44 in Adelaide. But he was, like an opener playing against that quality of bowling. He comes and tries to hit over the top. And he did score a few boundaries, but you felt like he needed a break. He needed a break to go back and work on his game and come back. So, like with Mayank, for instance, it's probably more technical. But with KL, he just needed the time out to go work on his game. And he says that he's see, in terms of talent and skill, it is still the same. He always had it. But now I think he's mentally in a much better space to play Test cricket, where he's found the rhythm for Test cricket. And it shows. Of course, he's been fortunate in terms of, his some of his edges not carrying through and so on. In another series that could have happened and so on. But this innings was phenomenal. The last two tests have been phenomenal.
No, actually, this particular Lord's test, the first day, the way he batted is actually the way that a lot of people in Karnataka remember him batting in the early days. Because when he came in, he was known as this guy who would take his time, give as in the famous Sunny comment goes, give the first session to the bowler, give the first start to the bowler, that kind of batsman. And so there was this, with the name like Rahul from Karnataka, obviously you have all these comparisons going around, which they had then. But then when he started playing, that Adelaide knock was so uncharacteristic of KL Rahul actually, because in first class cricket, of course, IPL and one day cricket, he's a different kind of a batsman. He plays this thing. But in a first class game, in a test game, to watch him like that, trying to hit himself out of form was quite strange. And also you felt like something, you're right, something is going on. But this particular knock, I haven't seen him play like for a while. The way he, the sort of the grafting that was there now. It wasn't like there were balls where he could have hit for 4. That it's very obvious. Like KL Rahul is talented enough to hit many of those for 4, but to actually for him to resist, that would have been quite a challenge. And it would have also, probably taught him a lot about, it would have taught him about batting and his own the balls that he has to go through the zones, right? Many batsmen, they keep a zone and they see that, okay, if the ball is slightly outside that also, I leave it, even though I can probably hit it. So I think you could see that he was really enjoying what he was doing. And also it was, I wish he had gone on much more in the second day. He got out early, but to score that much 120 odd in the first day with that start was quite something. Yeah.
And he had, of course, he found the rhythm to play Test cricket, but he also had his natural sort of stroke making. And that came through so beautifully. Once he crossed 50 in the Lord's Test, he was in such pristine form. In fact, on the day he scored the 100, Brathwaite also scored a 97. And some of his off drives were phenomenal. I just saw the highlights, but it was like an off drive or cover drive exhibition, happening in two different parts of the world. And Rahul looks spectacular driving past his 50. Yeah.
So you want to talk about the other batsman who is playing pull shots? And why? Tell me this. Why?
Hang on.
Why can't he emulate Steve Waugh? Steve Waugh stopped playing pull shots. He said, "It's getting me out. I will not play the pull shot." Why this batsman is not doing that, man?
This is why I keep telling people, don't take ODI and T20 legends, quote unquote legends, into testing. Right?
I take it as a compliment that you call him a T20 legend, because a lot of people question that.
I thought you would take it as a compliment that I'm comparing him to Steve Waugh.
Absolutely. So before we get there, I'm happy to take the bait, and I'm absolutely going to take the bait because I have a few things to say about it. But before that, in this whole test, if you look at it, we've talked about bowling, we've talked about batting and so on, but essentially the biggest achievement for India is that they were sent in on possibly the toughest conditions that they faced in this tour, certainly the toughest conditions in this test. In a typical match, that means that the team which won the toss had a massive advantage to be able to insert the opposition on wicket like that, and the wicket neutralized. It kind of became flatter pretty soon. Like even by the time the second day started, the wicket was a lot flatter than it was on the first day. And if you look at it again, like we've discussed this about Rohit in the past, that he plays Test cricket according to situations, according to conditions. We talked about it when we talked about his 100 in Chennai, for instance, where he scores 80 runs in the first session. Even here, for instance, he was alive to the dangers of the pitch. So he defended beautifully. He played the ball very late. And in fact, while watching him, I realized that, like, if, for instance, if you watch some of the English batsmen, particularly Bairstow, for instance, when he defends, his bat is so far in front of his pads. And Rohit is always at his pads. It's like, the batting in a box that AB de Villiers talks about.
Yeah.
Like, you can see Rohit pretty much emulating that. He's really batting in a box. And even when he's leaving the ball, if you compare, let's say, with Rahul, for instance, who also played well, but he was leaving a lot of the balls pretty late. He was guessing at the time of leaving the ball, but Rohit looked a lot more assured. So he played that innings in kind of two tempo, right? Every time there was a ball to be punished, he punished. And even like if you look at how he started accelerating, he picked on the bowlers, right? He didn't pick on Anderson, but he picked on Sam Curran, for instance, who was a weak link, and he scored those 3 or 4 boundaries in 1 over. Pristine boundaries, but more than the beauty of it, which is what, even Dinesh Karthik talks about it in the interview, saying you're one of the most beautiful looking batsmen. But more than all that, it's the cricketing intelligence which comes through that he knows he's got to survive against their most potent threat in these conditions. But he also knows that the conditions are so stacked against you that if you don't score runs fast enough, you could survive for 2 hours and not have anything to show for it. So that way, the balance was so beautiful. And in fact, throughout that inning, still Rohit got out. Rahul was not the one playing freely at all. He was not the stroke-making Rahul.
Yeah, I think he goes 40-something when Rohit goes out, actually.
Yeah.
Rahul's abstinence through the first session had a lot to play with the fact that Rohit was getting runs at the other end. Because if you're not getting runs at either end, then it's not easy to leave balls that you can technically with your talent hit for 4. And then when you start going for those shots, then you just edge off. So the fact that Rahul was able to play that shot, as odd as it sounds, the fact that he was given the freedom to not play his shots was thanks to the fact that runs were coming at the other end. And it's very difficult to counter those conditions like the way that Rohit did. So yeah, all credit to him. Fantastic innings.
Yeah, especially the 80, man. He was on 81 and Rahul was on 18 at that one point in time. Then he was on 82, Rahul was on 28. Rahul caught up pretty quickly, and bizarrely this guy, combination of conserving for the session to end and also not getting the strike, he moved from 81 to 83 very slowly by the time that guy caught up to 40. And the score swelled up a lot. He should have gotten a century there. He should have actually gotten a lot more in the first test. That was a brain-dead shot that he hit. I don't know what justifications.
Every shot Rohit Sharma gets out to is brain-dead, right?
Hang on. So
this is Hall of Famer shot.
So this is something we've discussed about why he doesn't get out to Jaffas. I was thinking that quite possibly the first test after 83, the Anderson LBW, where it was like a very sharp seam movement where no batsman could have done anything. It was not even like a swing where you could argue that if you had seen earlier, you could have negotiated. It was like very sharp seam movement, and it is almost impossible for him to play. That's probably the only dismissal of Rohit where I don't think anybody would have called it a brain fade, or probably they would have even given the credit of it being a Jaffa.
No. The World Test Championship, he got 2 terrific balls. So I think people can remember that also. But yeah, the fact is, I think Kartikeya was pointing it out on Twitter, and it's also a pretty, should be an evident point by now. If you have a batsman who is playing his shots, it's unlikely that he's going to get Jaffas, because Jaffa is usually a batsman is defending. It's not like if Rohit gets a great ball and he's going for a shot and he gets out, that is not called a Jaffa. That's just the prism through which the term Jaffa is defined. So it's only when a batsman, Dravid or a Pujara, is defending in an immaculate way and they get the edge and it goes, everyone's like, oh, that's a Jaffa. So that is the problem with the word Jaffa, not with the way they're getting out necessarily.
Yeah, it is just optics, right? How it looks. If you play inside the ball, inside the line of a straight ball, you can make it look like a Jaffa pretty easily.
If you pull the ball to the only fielder in the outfield 1 ball before lunch, it is not how it looks. It is what it is. At 97 for no loss.
But see, look at his justification. His justification is, why aren't you seeing how many runs I'm scoring off that shot? You're only seeing why
true. But that is because he's conflating his success in limited overs format to this. If you look at Test cricket, apart from his home series against South Africa, where he had a phenomenal success playing pull and hook, but even there, for instance, when he played it against Ngidi and Rabada, he played it after he's very well set, like after he's 70 or 80. Like in Test cricket, his record playing the pull shot is not great. And he's got to realize it. Like, this is the way I play. This has been my most protective shot is kind of rubbish logic. And for someone who's so smart, who's adapted to opening the batting so beautifully, I still think that it's just the hangover of him having so much success playing that shot in the formats that he's played, in domestic cricket, in Ranji Trophy, in one day, in T20, whatever. There are two things that he needs to do. One, he's got to accept the reality that his risk reward playing that shot in Test cricket is not great. Whatever, you can argue the samples are not big, but that is the reality at the moment. He hits a six, he gets out. The second thing is that even within the pull shot, because he's curbing himself so much when it comes to his discipline on good length balls, that he feels like that's a release shot that he should absolutely take. Like when the bowlers are bowling short, and if he gets that release, he scores, let's say, 4 boundaries in that, he can easily put the pressure back on them, and he doesn't have to look for boundaries of good length corridor balls. But even that, if you look at his dismissals, they're typically dismissals of short balls bowled at his body, where he doesn't have too much room to swing. Like if you look at the first innings 6 of Mark Wood, it's of a top edge. It was not perfectly connected or so on. But even a top edge carried there because he had the momentum to swing. He had so much room to swing, and that carried it through. But if you look at his dismissal, he had a similar dismissal in Australia, again, just before lunch or tea or whatever. I don't attach too much significance to this before lunch, before tea thing, but it's still a bad shot. So there was one in Australia, there was one against Robinson, and again here against Wood. When the field is placed, if at least with Wood, for instance, he actually tried to play at the boundary. With Robinson and the one in Australia, he kind of tried to help it along, which is a great shot if there's no fielder, but there is a fielder. And you're not trying to roll the wrist over and keep it down. And you're not trying to clear the boundary either. And if you're trying to clear the boundary, you don't have the room to swing. So I think it's a reasonably simple decision for him to say that if it is in this area, I'm not going to pull. I think it's partly his ego, partly his misguided sense of success. In fact, if you remember, after the Australia series, Vikram Rathore said, we have had a discussion about this or whatever. But after this one, Vikram Rathore gave a statement saying we've had a discussion with him, but he believes that it's one of his most protective shots, one of his most successful shots. And he doesn't want to let that go. So we have discussed about how to use that to his strength and so on. So I guess it's been an ongoing conversation between the management and him. As much as I want Rohit to play his natural game or whatever, I think he's got to realize that the odds are not great. At least so far, based on the data that we have, it's not been great.
You're saying he should be Steve Waugh. Okay, got it. He should be like Steve Waugh. Okay.
No, okay. It is quite possible for him to be Steve Waugh if you guys picked him, if the Indian selectors picked him early. Now he's almost at the fag end of his career. If he's going to shed the pull shot, it'll reduce the number of runs he's going to score.
Don't give excuses. Fag end of his career. Nothing. Come on. People are playing till Misbah-ul Haq played till when he's some 50 or something. Anderson is going to play till he's 60. What is this?
You can't pick one trait of Steve Waugh, one trait of Misbah and say you be this, you be that. What is this?
Yeah.
Then next you will say, why don't you bat 400 balls like Pujara?
Yeah, why not?
Why not?
If Rohit bats 400 balls, he may actually get a triple. Please bat 400 balls.
No. There are two components there. You're not telling him to bat 400 balls. You're telling him to bat 400 balls like Pujara.
Okay. With grit. Coming to Pujara. Okay, Pujara is a very tricky discussion because there is one aspect of Cheteshwar Pujara, the batsman, who is basically going out there and batting and doing his normal thing. There is another aspect of Cheteshwar Pujara that many people are seeing as the batsman, which is a totally different version.
They're not seeing him as a batsman. They're seeing him as a batsman. He's a savior. He's a savior.
The savior of
old
Test
world
cricket.
Charm of Test cricket.
Yeah, the old world charm and the glory of Test cricket and the hardworking
determination.
He's the shop floor. He's basically the head of the shop floor. And while the rest of the factory is basically on the top and first floor and enjoying, he's gritting it out down there. So the bottom line is Pujara's like he has been to England on a few tours. There's quite a good sample size. There is enough reason to question Pujara's spot in the side. I mean, he's batting at number 3, and with our Indian team of this level of batting depth and batting riches, there could be like 2-3 others who are easily like fighting for this spot. But so on a logical level, it is totally fair to question whether Pujara is, whether the consistency is there, or whether his spot needs to be scrutinized and everything like that. And
these are the things, right? Like, first of all, it is true that he averages less than 30, which for a number 3 you would want at least to be in the mid 30s to 40s. And for a number 3 who's in a team where the tail is evidently very long, and that's been a discussion point, and that's true as well. Our 8 to 11 is not that great, or 7 to 11 itself is not that great. So with all this in mind, he should be looking at, people who make decisions should be looking at why is that, right? But one good thing with Pujara is if you see the average amount of balls per innings, he faces 112 or something like that, or something in the lower hundreds, which is excellent, which is way above all other batsmen or peers of this kind. So my only question is, what is the message that you're sending to the guy? What are you telling to him as a team management? You want 40-50 runs every time he goes out to bat, or do you want him to stick 2 sessions or 3 sessions at one end, refusing to give his wicket? So that message we are not privy to, or that message we have not been, Kohli or Shastri has not come out and said that is what we have told Pujara to do, and that's what he's doing, and we are okay with that. In any case, if that is the case, then he's doing well. He's averaging 117 overs. He's batting fantastic. If that is not the case, and if it is runs that you're looking for, and that's evident by you pushing Ashwin out of the team, you wanting to pad your lower middle order and whatnot, then he has absolutely failed in that measure. 27 or 26 is not a great average across 3 or 2 years. Anybody else, well, there are 3 people, but we have 2 examples in our team. This has not happened in any era. So even if a batsman has come down to 30 or something, there would be questions. There would be people asking why these guys are not doing what they're supposed to do. And these are not people like journalists and people who are watching the game. People who are, selectors, team management and whatnot. So that has, from what I observed, that has not happened yet. And that's a problem. They have to sit and ask both Pujara and Rahane and Kohli. Let's not give leeway to Kohli also. His numbers post-tour 2020 is not that great. If you remove a 254 not out somewhere he has scored against South Africa, his numbers are pretty bad too. So they have to have a conversation.
Hang on. That's slightly problematic. I see this narrative quite a lot saying, team management is putting so much pressure on Rahane and Pujara, but what has Kohli done? See, every batsman goes through a lean run. It is quite unfortunate that 3 of them are going through it simultaneously. It's quite unfortunate. But at the end of the day, if a guy is averaging 50, he's got a lot more leeway to have a lean run than a guy who's averaging 40, which is Rahane, for instance. So, I get what you're saying, but, I don't like this sort of narrative where, Kohli is putting so much pressure on them, but what is he doing? It's not the same. He has a lot more buffer. And I would even distinguish between Pujara and Rahane themselves. It's not the same equation. Now, Pujara is in a much better... Okay, I have some sympathy for Pujara here, because particularly his lean run part of it, where if you look at it, even though he's had a lean run, he had pretty good, I think 3 or 4 350s against South Africa when Rohit and Mayank were opening. And, they had phenomenal starts. It was not like Pujara's lack of conversion was hurting the team or whatever. Then we've had 2 outlier series, one in Australia and one against England at home. Australia outlier, the whole sort of pandemic-driven thing is one of the reasons why we had a 36 all-out kind of an event. So we had a 36 all-out. And in fact, he played pretty well in Sydney and Brisbane. One of the reasons why we drew the test in Sydney, and a significant reason why we won in Brisbane. He wasn't too bad in the first test in Chennai against England. Subsequently, we had an extraordinarily outlier series where, apart from Rohit Sharma, nobody scored. I mean,
Good one.
I want to be quite smug here.
Good plug.
Yeah. He wanted to talk about Pujara, Kohli, Rahane, and then he brought it to Rohit. Like, I know this is why I tell people don't mention his name in this podcast, man. Wow.
But point is, have some sympathy for it, because these are
and additionally he plays only one format, which means that he's also having long stretches of no game time. I mean, it's not like he's playing first class cricket, and some silly fellows went and picked him for an IPL, so he missed even like the English county season. I mean,
they thought they were actually doing a favor to him.
Yeah, when they spoiled him having at least some 5-6 good games in English county.
Okay. Now that I was batting for Pujara, you brought up the county point. I've got to mention this here. I don't think it would have helped too much. He's had a county stint with 3 different teams. His record is not great.
Yeah, it's not great.
Like his Nottinghamshire record is 8 matches, 27.
But it's not just about record, right? It's also about rhythm. If you spend 100 balls in the middle and score 30 runs, 20-30 runs, you still can get into a rhythm for the next match. Yeah.
And that was just me using that opportunity to highlight that even his county record is not great. It's not just the 3 series that he's played in England. His county record is not great. And Cricket Force somehow finds a way to present it in a way where he scored 200 for Derbyshire, they'll see. But what about the overall record, Yeah, like for Nottinghamshire, he's played like 8 games, but I think his average is 27. Yorkshire has played 10 games where his average is 25. So, I mean, we've discussed this before as well. When you have a cricketer, you got a record, what do you price in? If you have to model Pujara for me is in this current era is a great test batsman. I'm not even going to say very good. He's a great test batsman. But within that, he's great in certain conditions. And he's not great in South Africa. He's not great in New Zealand. He's certainly not great in England. This is data. This is pure data. You cannot, there's no opinion on this. You can't say, how can you say that about Pujara? Now, someone like Ashwin was put under the scanner for a Sena record at a time when he had not played a test in New Zealand, and he had played 1 test in England. Like he had bowled a sum total of 34 overs in England and 0 overs in New Zealand. And people are saying his Sena record is not great. Now, that is a level of scrutiny imposed on one of the all-time great, if not the greatest spinner this country has seen. Now, Pujara is not in that league when it comes to the batsman. That's one thing. But you can't talk about Pujara, right? You can't even say that he's expected to fail in England. How can you say that? Now, like the problem with Pujara, unlike Rahane, is not so much about the fact that he should be dropped. It is that people should not be so sensitive about everything about him. He's become a political symbol. So if Kohli is saying he's got to bat fast, it's not coming from some moron. It's not like Kohli doesn't understand how Test cricket works, or he doesn't understand how different players approach Test cricket. He's seen Pujara bat all his life. He's seen them at domestic cricket. When he made his debut, he's seen him at home. See, when you talk about Pujara at home, you're not talking about strike rate. You're talking about him being a substantial batsman. Even his fans will not say, he batted 200 balls. So when you talk about Pujara at home, the concept of all these secondary measures don't matter, because the primary measure of runs are good enough. But when you're talking about him outside of India, particularly in England and other places, you're saying, he plays 100 balls. That takes the shine of the new ball. That makes life a lot easier for other, middle order batsmen. So then you are getting into a very, very sort of touchy territory. So with Pujara, I'm not going to make a case he should be dropped, but we got to have a very honest conversation about him, and we should not just give him extra sort of, he's not a quota candidate. It's not like we can't have a quota for test match specialists. We can't have a quota for old school boys, So when Kohli is saying he's got to bat fast, if you look at it, Pujara has the game to first, survive and score off really well in India, for instance, or in Sri Lanka, for instance. To some extent, that even worked in Australia, but his survival period was much longer. But in other conditions, a typical like Asian batsman who's very good in the subcontinent but not good outside will actually get out. But Pujara's strength is even in conditions where he's not good. He's not good at scoring, but he's really good at surviving. Now, the management's argument is that you're good at surviving, I know, but the primary measure is the runs and you're not scoring enough of them. Perhaps it's because you're slowing, you're playing at this pace. You got to push so that you score. Now, this is an argument that they made based on his record elsewhere, which is a very clear indication that this guy can score. Now you can argue that, you got to let Pujara probably disagrees with them. That's fine. Pujara can disagree with them. But you cannot say that let Pujara be, It's a team sport and you're not performing. Your primary measure is runs.
Yeah, and also one thing here. I mean, the second innings partnership, Pujara and Rahane, was fantastic. Okay, coming in at that position where India was still, England had taken the lead in the first innings, and then India had lost quick wickets to come and do that, and sort of make sure that you're not losing the game, because you lose another 2-3 wickets and then you're looking at a collapse, and the game could be gone in no time. So that was very good. But the kind of spin that it gets, like the saying that after being questioned, look at what they did, or the kind of, it's almost like you're glorifying that partnership. But look at it honestly. I mean, this is like a number 3 and a number 5 in a world-class team, one of the perhaps the greatest Indian team ever, and easily one of the best teams now.
They have 10,000 test runs between them. They are not
exactly, and you're talking
yesterday.
about you're talking about experienced batsmen. I mean, the bar is high. Okay, I mean, this is not like you're not talking about a time when a team is struggling, or when it's like a mid-table team, or even like a lower team. I mean, if say if a Sri Lankan number 3 and number 5 had done that, there is and I'm saying this current Sri Lankan number 3, number 5, not like the past, like currently, or if any other team, if you take like who are like in the mid-table, there is a reason to say that, oh, okay, this is something. But this is not. This is expected. I mean, because of the quality of the team, you expect number 3 and number 5 to do this for you once in a while.
And look at the bowling attack, man. I mean, you have Jimmy Anderson with 600 wickets. The Ollie Robinson is playing his 7th test, right? And Mark Wood is at 10 or 15 tests, less than 15 tests. Same with Sam Curran. I mean, they are not like test veterans, and they are still getting into test arena. You may argue that they are good, and that's a fair argument. But still, this is not Cummins and Hazelwood and Stark at you all the time. This is not that. You see off Anderson, you get good ball. I mean, you get balls to score off. So partly it is them trying to get into form, because let's be honest, they are terribly out of form. And partly it is the limitation of their technique and the fear that there is not a long batting lineup after that to come. So a mix of all that, it's a very good partnership. It obviously saved India from losing, because if they hadn't gotten out in 20s or 10s as they have in the recent past, we would have not been in a situation to in the last day to even have a 150 lead. We would have had an 80 or 90 run lead, and then this test would have been gone. So all that is true. But having said all that, this is not the Lakshman and Dravid versus the Australians in Kolkata. This is not that. I mean, it was it had momentum. The discussion had the momentum to take it to that space. Thankfully, a lot of things happened on day 5, which were far more dramatic.
Rahane, I thought we were going there. Thankfully,
Thankfully, a lot of things happened.
My point is, even if they had a century partnership, let's say instead of Shami and Bumrah scoring, it's these two guys who had each scored 100, they had a 200 partnership, and India went on to win the test. But that still doesn't negate the fact that they came into this test on patchy record. And, particularly for Rahane, right? It's one thing to go through a 10-20 test run, lean run. But Rahane's last 50 test average is about 36. 50 tests in a career of 76 tests. That's like 2/3 of your career. You've been coasting along at 36. Now, if you don't question that record in a country with so much talent, if you can't find a space for Gill, a space for Shaw, a space for Mayank, a space for Abhimanyu Ishwaran, and so many other batsmen who are waiting in the wings.
Surya Kumar Yadav.
So when will you question? I don't understand. Now, and the other argument that a lot of people have made is that, Ganguly had a record like this, or Lakshman had a record like this, which kind of annoys me, because nobody said, oh, don't drop Lakshman, he scored so many hundreds in Ranji Trophy. No, he was dropped. If he had failed in the Calcutta test, he would have dropped for the Chennai test. That's how precarious his situation was. And for someone who was shunted up and down the order, opening number 6, number 3, he took a while to find his feet in test cricket. And if you look at his record after the 30th test, it doesn't look anywhere as bad as it has been for Rahane for so long. So, first of all, and also, it's not like there was so much depth in the team at that time. So this whole argument that somehow these are test specialists, like for instance with Pujara, it's like he's old school, he's a test specialist. With Rahane, it's like he scores more away. Like, so what? His average is still 40. Even if your average is 43 away, what does that tell you of your home record?
No, but even if he scores, even if there is this conception that he scores away, I mean, their records in England over a substantial period of time is still
Very
far
bad.
more than
It's
to be
bad.
desired.
It's bad.
I mean, I think, Ashoka, you had some numbers saying that apart from Rohit, I mean, the averages of all these guys in England,
Rohit and
despite
Pant, yeah.
no, and despite Kohli having a phenomenal 2018, because of 2014 and because of now these two tests, it's still not
bad.
up there.
It's not up there. We were just talking about it before the pod, right? Like Mahela Jayawardena was considered not a great traveler overseas. He has better averages than these three batsmen, I think.
In England.
Yeah, in England. And I mean, you have to honestly face up to those facts and see if there is another replacement or you can try other things. It's not like that's the problem. I mean, you set some people in stone and you made up your mind that they won't go. And then you are tinkering with things down the order or up the order to accommodate this. And that becomes a problem.
No, and there are two things here, right? One is, I mean, just because you have, one is the greatness of a player. I mean, that is, for legacy purposes, that is for record, that is for history. But the allied point is that team selection. So if a particular player, if you feel a particular player is not going to be good in a certain condition, in a certain situation against a certain attack, you can drop him, but that doesn't necessarily diminish his greatness. I mean, there are two different things. I mean, Pujara can be a great batsman and yet be dropped for a test in England. That is fine. I mean, as you said, Lakshman has been dropped and players have been dropped. I mean, so what? Is anyone saying VVS Lakshman is not a great batsman? I mean, it's not the point. The second thing is, I think, Mahesh, your point, and you've spoken about this many times, is that this whole ecosystem coming into this narrative, right? Like the fact that Test cricket, especially, the English press are constantly highlighting the fact that Test cricket is on life support. So when Test cricket was on life support, Pujara is basically the doctor who is keeping it alive. He's that machine. That is the one set of the narrative. And the second thing is that, I mean, when you talked slightly earlier, Ira, like, Rahul Dravid has played a number of innings like this, right? But I remember Rahul Dravid used to get criticized for playing innings like this, actually, rather than, glorifying it to say.
No, I'm reading Gideon Haig's summer game right now, which talks about cricket in the post-Bradman, basically. Post-Bradman 50s, 60s cricket in Australia. And the whole dirge was about batsmen batting slow. So when has this become a redeeming feature of Test cricket? And the other thing is, a batsman batting at a 40. Okay. The other day I was doing a sort of stats guru thing on batsmen with 5,000 runs and sorted by strike rate. Pujara falls right in between Vishwanath and Gavaskar. No, this is not an outlier by any stretch of imagination. And the other thing about the nature of Test cricket is that the strike rates tend to converge around the median. Even unless you're a Sehwag, Gilchrist level of outlier, the difference between a Sachin and Pujara itself is not that big, So, or the Langer and Sachin is actually positive, Langer scores at a faster rate. So this whole perception and the strike rate in Test cricket is a little weird. But even in this era, forget past era, in this era, like Brathwaite, for instance, scores at the same rate. Azhar Ali scores at the same rate. Asad Shafiq, when he was playing, scores at the same rate. Faf had a career where, he scored at the same rate. So there is nothing unique about a scoring rate. This is the format. This is how Test batsmen play,
Yeah. This is like this creating some new sort of a template for a Test batsman and then expecting him to fit that template. And then when he fits that template, trying to justify it by saying this is how he's playing. Look what he has done. And then, there's this article in The Guardian about how even India were 3 down. Apparently, everyone expected, them to take the Rishabh Pant approach and come and counter attack, and then Pujara knuckled down. What are you talking? I mean, this Indian team is built on actually knowing exactly how to bat when. And it's not like Rishabh Pant is coming in and mindlessly hitting, and it's not like he's some random guy who's coming and slogging. Hello, he's probably one of India's best batsmen at the moment. He's understood Test cricket better than many people. He's batting like a legend. I mean, why are we setting these silly templates about how these players are expected to play and then justifying that, this is how they played? They are complete, some third dimension of imagination that is taking over cricket writing at the moment.
Verbal gymnastics gold medal winners will be.
One extraordinary irony about this whole narrative about Pujara being the savior and all that is, even if I assume Test cricket is on ICU, if you want to save it, you basically want more punts to play Test cricket. One, basically it brings more people to watch it. And it gives a canvas for someone like Pant to fully explore his attacking batting. At the end of the day, in a T20, you could hit 10 sixes. That's about it. Here, you can actually probably, have a blast for 6 hours. And that is, you cannot get that sort of a parallel in any other format. That's one thing. But even like, this is an argument that I've made before. If you take a T20 charlatan, for want of a better example, let's say Harsha Bhogle, he would want to say that, T20 is the future, Test cricket is an anachronism, out of its time and place and whatever. If they want to corner Test cricket further, if they were the guys administering the game, the easiest thing for them to do is, okay, let's create a caste system where Pujara is the Test batsman and Pant is the T20 batsman. If you create this template, it's going to make Test cricket even worse because they're going to say, okay, you take your 6 Pujaras and 1 BJ Watling and 4 Dale Steins, and you play Test cricket whenever you want. You play it throughout the year. I'll keep all my superstars here. Even if the superstars are not particularly great T20 players, and for all much better Test players, but because they have sort of box office potential, I'm going to keep them here. So even if you want to save Test cricket, this narrative is in fact counterproductive.
Which comes to the last point about, I've spoken about how you can have a great cricketer, but you can have the cricketer left out for certain conditions. But the question is, should arguably India's greatest spinner be left out of this first 2 tests in this series? And it looks likely that it could be the rest of the series as well. So what is your take on the Ashwin situation?
I have a short answer and a long answer. Okay. Should he be left out? The short answer is no. The long answer is also no. He should be part of every test. I tweeted out saying leaving Ashwin out of tests should be a criminal offense, and I stand by it. It should be a criminal offense. Somebody should go to jail for this.
Okay, but when you say if Ashwin should not be left out, you should also mention who should not be in the team, right? You cannot just say Ashwin should be in. So the question I have is it an Ashwin Jadeja issue, or can India basically say we are playing our best 5 bowlers? In which case, Ashwin automatically makes it, and then you decide between Jadeja and Siraj, or whoever you want to decide. It could be Siraj one day, it could be Ishant, depending on the conditions.
I'm saying you can look at it in another way, right? Like Jadeja has been batting solidly. He has a 40 plus average now over 15 tests and in a variety of conditions. So if you're picking Jadeja primarily for his batting and objectively his bowling, because of our fast bowlers bowling too much, or when Ashwin is bowling, he's taking most of the the bowling. His bowling numbers have dropped. I think over some tests now, last 1.5 years, he's averaging over 30. So now he's clearly, by observation and by how he has performed, he has become a batsman who can bowl. This is not to suggest that he's not a good bowler. He's still a world-class spinner. But the way that he's being used in test is like mostly a batsman who can also give you some overs. If that is your measure, and in that measure he has scored 40 plus or 45 plus over some tests, replace him with one of your top 5, man. What is stopping you from moving him to 5 and dropping Rahane? Nothing is stopping you. Really, nothing is stopping you. Or, push Kohli up to, push Kohli up to 3, Rahane up to 4, him 5 by dropping Pujara. You can do your variation there.
So you're killing Test cricket, basically.
Yeah, basically, let's kill it. It's been limping around for like 20 years now. Let's kill it. So anyways, what I'm saying is, if you want
years, you mean?
If you want a value of Jadeja as a batsman, you can get it even when he's batting in the proper top 3, 4, 5 slot. And that, clears your way to have 4 fast bowlers. Even in this test and in the previous test, your 4th fast bowler is not bowling that much. Shardul wasn't bowling that much, and Jadeja was hardly bowling. So your 5 bowling options, why would you need it in conditions you don't know? You may argue that there may be situations where we need bowlers, and you have a solitary data point of that WTC final. Even there, Ashwin was like 4 for 60 or 70, man. That is golden figures. It's not like he bowled and then release all the pressure and they won. It's not like that. The problem is you can't give one data point. Just like you can't say Pujara has one bad test and therefore needs to be dropped. You can't say Ashwin Jadeja combo, and I don't know why they have to be tag teamed as twins when their roles are quite different. You are picking Jadeja for his batting, and you are picking Ashwin because he's the best bowler in the WTC Championship. So, the slots are different. Put Jadeja in the top order and then have Ashwin as your bowler. And Ashwin is anyways averaging in the 20s, as I said. That is the same batting average as Pujara, Kohli and Rahane. So you'll have one more batsman who's averaging in his 20s. So you have good batting cover also. So
you have one more batsman who averages in his 20s and is arguably the greatest spinner India has produced. What do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose? And I don't know. These guys.
First of all, I don't agree with you that Jadeja can bat in the 3, 4, 5. I don't think he's a batsman who does the role that India expect a 3, 4 or 5 to do. Like, for instance, him coming in with India 30 for 3. I don't think Jadeja is the kind of guy who you want to enter at that stage. I think the confusion is with the poor tail. Now, of course, Bumrah and Shami.
Sidvi, if you don't want Jadeja to come in at 30 for 3, imagine that guy is coming at 50 for 5 then. It's a further... that's even a terrible situation, and he's averaging 45 from there. Better he comes at 30 for 3 and then manages the situation from there. Why are you sticking that guy with tail-enders, man? And he has to wait for the 4th ball to take a single. Let him play, in the top order.
No, so the thing with Ashwin, the whole question is, first thing I want to make it clear is that I think it's a marginal decision, and that the team management went ahead one way as against the other. So when I'm talking about Ashwin, I'm not talking so much about what the management should have done as much as how we talk about it, right? Now, for instance, when Rahane was dropped for Rohit in South Africa in 2018, the level of outrage for a batsman who's possibly the 3rd best batsman in the team, was so much. And here you got easily the best spinner of the world right now, and quite possibly the best spinner India has produced. And he's dropped despite having a stellar sort of record in recent times in all countries, in Australia, particularly in the previous test in World Test Championship itself. And that somehow is seen as okay. The way we are reacting is, okay, Ashwin didn't play because the conditions didn't allow him to play. Now, how can you have one reaction to Rahane, who's a good batsman, but not a legend, and a legend being dropped? You can't, like with Kohli, right? You put the name first. You say Kohli is there, then you organize the team around the rest. Now, why can't you talk about Bumrah in the same terms, which you do? Why can't you talk about Ashwin in the same terms? Now, that's where my problem is, that when you get a legendary bowler like him, he gets treated poorer than a good batsman. And when I say poorer, it's not just by the team management, just the whole cricketing ecosystem, the way it approaches, the way it talks about it. Now, the other problem that I have, particularly with the team management, is it's not a problem, but my reading is that, like I mentioned earlier as well, is that they seem to have overread the loss in the World Test Championship, and they've kind of tried to, they basically gone along saying, okay, New Zealand won because they had 4 bowlers for the conditions. No, they did. It's not because they had 4 bowlers for the conditions. It's because even if they had 3 absolute perfect fit for those conditions. Even if you had 3 Bumrahs, it's not a match to those 3 bowlers in those conditions. So they just had better bowlers for the conditions. And if they had an Ashwin, they would have absolutely played Ashwin. And so that's my only concern, that when you're talking about Ashwin, you're talking about an absolute all-time great. You got to put him in the team first and organize the team around it, unless you're saying you have too many spinners and so on. And I don't agree with Ashoka about playing Jadeja as a batsman, not so much as a batsman, and as a doubt on his batting abilities, but it's just that if you think 5th bowler is not fully utilized, why play a 6th bowler when you can play probably Hanuma Vihari, for instance? Otherwise, he'll become the next political symbol like Pujara, like he's a test specialist, Ranji record. They don't play him because he doesn't have an IPL contract.
No, but also I think Ashwin is suffering for 2 reasons, right? One, because India have a terrific bowling attack. So the gains that Ashwin is giving as a bowler is not really coming through, because these bowlers are so good anyway. So, and India have, forget this partnership that these guys had, but India's tail is weak, irrespective of what Shami and Bumrah did in this test. So because of that, and because of the bowling, I think the 2 things are coming together and saying, okay, we have a great bowling attack, we have a poor tail, so what is our option? Ashwin does not seem, I mean, at least maybe in their head, the gains that he's giving as a bowler to that attack is nowhere compared to the loss that he's giving to this tail. And so, Jadeja is automatic fit there. That is basically what I'm saying. He's losing out on the combination of factors. But at the same time, I think it is wrong to look at this as an Ashwin v Jadeja debate. I think there is a way in which the team can, I mean, I'm sure the team is thinking about it in multiple ways, but I'm saying even as fans, there are ways to look at it in other ways. Like there are teams that pick their best 5 bowlers. Like, for instance, if you go to the Oval and you still don't play Ashwin, I mean, and I'm imagining the Oval is going to be a pitch favoring spinners. If you still don't play Ashwin, then you are probably not playing your 5 best bowlers for the conditions. And that is an issue then, right?
I mean, if you've seen his last away cycle, see, the other reason why I'm really excited to see Ashwin is that, outside of, probably in my lifetime at least, outside of Vaughan and Murli and Sakline at his absolute peak, we've not seen a spinner who excels in all conditions. And Ashwin in the last away cycle, has come close to that. Now, we want more samples of that. Like, as cricket fans, forget, of course, I'm also from Chennai and he's from Chennai, and, like, all that tribal connection is there. But beyond that, I'm saying as a cricket fan, you want to see a spinner at the absolute peak of his craft to be able to, go and prove himself in all different conditions. And he brings so much variety to the lineup, right? It's not, you can't just say, first of all, it's very hard to say whether his absence is not being felt by the team. It is impossible to argue. I mean, the bowling lineup is good, right? All the 4 bowlers are doing well. So it's very easy for you to say, okay, perhaps they're not missing it. They might be missing the batting part of it. In fact, one of my friends joked about it, saying the standard of selection for, or rather, in Indian team selection right now, a bowler gets penalized for being a poorer batsman than a proper batsman. Like, Ashwin is dropped because he's a lesser batsman than Jadeja, and not Pujara or Rahane, for instance, right? It's not like so much that I'll outrage if they leave him out of Oval. I'm sure they'll absolutely pick him in Oval. Like, even here they had him in the 12, right? Only on seeing a green top on the morning of the match, they decided not to play Ashwin. So I'm reasonably sure that it's not an agenda that they have against the man. It is just their view of which is the best team to play in those conditions. But my point is, you got to look at Ashwin as more than that. He is the man who's got to play in all conditions, unless it's an absolute green top, which is going to be there, and it's going to be a 2-day test where seamers are going to take all the wickets, kind of a thing. You got to play him in all conditions.
Yeah, and this is I mean, having said all this, this is also a good team problem. I mean, a great team problem rather, because when you have such a good bowling attack. I mean, Murli never had a situation where he would have had his place under threat because the bowling was not that strong, right? I mean, he was carrying the bowling. But even a bowler like Shane Warne had his times when his spot was not certain. He was dropped. Shane Warne was dropped. I mean, you're talking about the greatest spinner of all time. I mean, perhaps the greatest spinner of all time. But he was dropped. I mean, you had the West Indian fast bowlers who missed out because, I mean, however great they were, there are only certain number of there are only 11 spots in the team, right?
But there's a difference. Like, Vaughan was never dropped when he was at his absolute peak because of the conditions. Vaughan was dropped because he was bowling poorly. Like, he was not bowling substandard. Even Ashwin has been dropped like that in the past. But here you are dropping a legend at the absolute peak of his craft purely because you're like, this is not horses for courses, right? Now I don't buy into that. Like, if you're a great team, you have a great spinner. And it's not like you have multiple great spinners. You have only one great spinner at the moment, especially with Jadeja in the last 2-3 years not being as great. You got to play him. That's just the way I see it.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing not to see him bowl, and I hope that we can see him bowl through the series. But if not, then what to do?
If not, then drop batsmen to accommodate him. No, we always drop bowlers to accommodate batsmen.
Karthikeya in his standard sort of mood was taking on the keyboard warriors, and he said, "It's one thing for you to say, pick Ashwin, but who would you drop? That's the more important question."
Yeah.
And I was telling him Kohli, right? I mean, like, you can drop anyone. Like, I mean, right now with that middle order's form, Ashwin actually can come in as a batsman.
Yeah, I mean, he has 100 against England, right? In that recent home series.
In Chennai, yeah.
Chennai. Yeah. Anyway, so let's I think we've covered good ground. Couldn't get too deep into the first test because of the second test was so thrilling and the finish was so good. Wanted to talk about fast bowling, but we'll definitely reconvene after either after the next test or definitely after series review for sure. But hopefully we can meet one or two times before that as well.
So what you mean to say is we had time to talk about Lords, but not about the Lord.
Shardul Thakur. We'll speak one whole episode. We'll have on Shardul Thakur when he takes 16 wickets to win India the series. Finally, we will talk about it. Yeah.
Hey, his bowling average is now 23, man. It is as good as Bumrah, but you guys summa say Bumrah is the pinnacle of bowling and whatnot. This guy.
Okay. Now that we have spoken about him, now that we have brought him up, let me just say that first test, some of the swing that he was getting, it was just phenomenal. I mean, the way he was, the ball. I mean, this is probably like how it would have been to watch like some of the great bowlers in their peak, right? The kind of swing that, I mean, people talk about Imran Khan in 82 and all that. Shardul's banana swing was just great to watch.
Didn't he get Root out?
Yeah, LBW. Yeah.
Root
was surprised by the LBW. I mean, Sidbi was going for Imran Khan, which I was going for the duplicate version, the China make of Imran Khan, which is Manoj Prabhakar.
Oh yeah, Prabhakar in '89. Correct. He would have been like that. Yeah.
He reminded me more of Prabhakar.
Yeah, I mean, it was Bhuvi. It was Bhuvi at his Bhuvaneshwar Kumar at his when he was in form, right? Like in South Africa and things. I mean, the shape, just to watch the ball go from where it did to where it ended up. I mean, the arc of the ball, beautiful, beautiful swing bowling to watch. I mean, and he brought India back into that test as you would expect the Lord to do. Yeah. Okay. We will talk about Shardul and a few other people, of course, in the future episodes. And there will be plenty to talk about in coming up in a few months as well. Anyway, thanks, guys. Thanks for joining. And thanks for all your insights and thoughts.
Good discussion, man. Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks for listening. As usual, please, follow us on Twitter. We have at 81 All Out. Our website is 81allout.com. You can listen, you can download our previous podcasts. We have 100 plus podcasts. You can, please leave a review and rating. It really helps us. It helps people find us. I mean, there's still a lot of listeners who don't know about our existence because we have a slightly different name and, it doesn't necessarily come up under, the regular sports podcast, but, you leaving a rating and review would definitely help us in that way. Also, you can support us, as I mentioned earlier in the pod, you can support us at Ko-fi. That's ko-fi.com/81allout. We have quite a few people there who have set up a regular monthly subscription and, that it is up to you how much you want to contribute. Or you can just go and throw in a one-time amount in there. That really helps the show going. And as I said, this is all something that we're doing in our spare time. And whatever you contribute, we are very grateful for it. So thank you for listening. Please listen to our previous podcast. A lot of timeless content in there. And we'll have another podcast soon with the series going forward. Thank you.
The test match. India have won the series. They're going to get back for two. India